Hi, Kapun Pisa here. I've been talking a lot about the brain. We know that the brain creates God, creates everything. Okay, keep that in mind. Let's go back to the time where the Abrahamic religions were created. And basically, we have all religions came from Egypt. Then we have the Roman Empire that adopted them. We have they have the sacred books. It was immense. Then we have they worship many gods, very tolerant, all kind of worships and everything else. Julius Caesar was a man of the people, was a son of Venus, and he protected the infirm, and he forgave the sins. The Senate hated him and that killing him. The Jews, they were not called Jews, they were Christi, they were the speculators, they were merchants of the empire. They've been merchants for 2,000 years. That was their religion, being merchants. They adopted the religions of the places that they did business with. A lot of information there. The Roman Empire was vast. Julius Caesar was declared a god by Octavius, his grandnephew. The Octavius became the new god. He adopted everything. He created the Pax Romana. He was considered the Prince of Peace. He was the Son of God. And he actually established the years to be counted since he became a god. And actually it was a 15-year difference. So that's the reason we have Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. It started with Octavius. The Roman Empire is extremely vast. A lot of the merchants established themselves in the province of Judea. You have Arabs and Muslims, there were no Muslims at the time, Arabs and all these different tribes, and established in Judea. In the city of Jerusalem, it became eventually Jerusalem. There was no Solomon, there is no David, there is none, no evidence of none of these people. They are just fictitious, they are fairy tales. But Herod was the king there. He was actually loved. He was a tremendous builder. And he created all that. He built a temple in the city to the Roman gods, especially Julius Caesar that had mutated with Jupiter. That's in the Mount Moriah. Now, these are facts, the historical facts. The rest is bullshit, because there's no archaeological evidence of a Solomon or David or Moses or none of that stuff. Or a Jewish empire. Never happened. It was only the Roman Empire. And that comes to Jerusalem.
And see, there is no evidence, no archaeological evidence of a Solomon or a David or any of those characters from the religious text. And one must go back in time to ancient epigraphy, like one can see in the Egyptian tombs, the 5,000-year-old so-called Book of the Dead, or pyramid text. And from there, we can see where these mythologies originated from. They are all product of our brains. No if or buts. So this is important to understand that archaeological facts talk. Religious psychosis bullshit walks. So in Jerusalem, in the city of nuts, Jerusalem, there is Mount Moriah. There is a Roman provincial city of Judea Palestina, and Judea Palestina was a Roman province. The Jews, the so-called Jews, were Roman citizens as Puerto Ricans are Americans. And the so-called Jews abide by the religion and the laws and traditions of the vast Roman Empire, the sacred kingdom of heaven. That was the true kingdom of heaven. So the Abrahamic religions and the archaeologists, that is the reason they cannot find any evidence of Solomon, Moses, or all that. They cannot find it. It's not there because it's all Roman cities, Roman temples, Roman everything. with Roman rituals. And they don't seem to understand that Moses, Ramoses, is a title, is not a person. And all these religious texts, all this, the Talmud, the Bibles, the many Bibles, the Korans, and all these religious texts, this compendium of texts, they were created by ancient people ingesting entheogens, because when you ingest datura flowers, all these psychotropic substances, and there are many, 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 they're in the mystery religions. They were a very guarded secret. They all have a guarded secret of how this preparation of the mushrooms, many, many mushrooms with other substances. So you had to prepare really well, and you held that as a secret, because those are the sacraments. And they give you the visions, and then you can see the gods, and you can worship them, and you can give money to the priest. And the priests were not like the ones today. A lot of them they don't even believe what they're preaching because of technology. But in ancient times, they all did believe this presence of the gods. And to get the presence of the gods, you needed entheogens. You needed substance to actually put you in a trance and make you see the spirit world. That is a truth. And of course, as I say, tempora mutantur nose mutamur in illis, which in Latin means times change and we change with them. In other words, everything evolves. The previous clip that you see is my video that I made in 2009. You know, and we all constantly learn. And we learn by mistakes. If I learn something that is wrong, and later on, then I correct it, and then I guide it. So I don't keep it stagnated like many traditional people, conservatives, do, to keep the same. No, we have to get rid of the bullshit. We in science, constantly open up the eyes. New things are found, and we realize what they are, we correct them. The religious never do. They already have all the answers. That's religious psychosis for you. So here I continue with my previous clips of 2009. It is now 2014. See, I experience aging because I'm getting old like everybody else is. We are nothing but evolved mutated primates that create thinking with our brains, and we are subject to radiation. The only life after death we will have is bacteria eating our remains. But we have to keep the brain healthy, in other words, atheist, so we can understand a lot of things. And then we must connect the dots.
The Roman Empire was very vast and tremendously tolerant of all religions. That's the reason there were no fights, no religious fights. Yeah. And it grew and it grew and it grew. But what happened was that eventually there were many cults to Caesar. Octavius wanted to dominate. He says, I'm the only true God, and he started that. He started the idea, like the Catholic Church has now, the Christianity is only Christianity, or you worship only one God, otherwise we'll kill you. Octavius started that, the son of God, Octavius. So anyway, he started developing only one religion to be accepted, that of his family. It was Julius, and him as a god. Of course, he died, and this continued, and then eventually, all the other religions start losing ground. And by the 4th century, Constantine, trying to completely destroy all the other sects and every other religion, this is only the religion of the gods in heaven, the Christus, which it was actually Julius Caesar had mutated. All the little fairy tales have changed to be worshipped as the only true accepted religion of the empire. That's what Christianity started. That began the disintegration of the Roman Empire. And that eventually created, it created all this idea of the Jews being the Christ killers and all the little fairy tales, because the god Caesar had been killed in a theater, the theater of Pompeii. His sacred blood was given there. So that's where the whole thing started. And all the fairy tales changed. And all the inventions of David and Moses and all the Solomon and the rest of the nonsense were transformed from the holy city of Rome, the only true holy city, to the supposedly holy city of Jerusalem. Nothing happened in Jerusalem. That's when you cannot find one scintilla of evidence. Even in coins, nothing. About a Christ, or a Moses, or a David, or Solomon, nothing. It's a Roman temple. And this eventually will end up with the delusions and the stagnation of the intellect and the little fairy tales that the Christians believe, and the Jews and the Muslims. Everything started in Rome. The Roman Empire was responsible for Judaism. As we know today, it was responsible. And, you know, don't get bullshit with this Book of Moses and Septuagint. They were Hellenistic books that were transferred to Rome, and Rome had the Sibylline oracles, which everybody believed in and everybody copied them. And that's why you have the Bible and Talmud and the rest of the bullshit and even the Quran. But now we have the psychosis manifests itself in the city of nuts, Jerusalem, with something that is called the Jerusalem syndrome.
Here, he's channeling the spirit of Jesus in Jerusalem. The lives of people who will worship him and him alone. Gary Frazier, a self-styled specialist in biblical prophecy, is the founder of the Texas-based Discovery Ministries.
Look at that.
I want to tell you.
And this anomaly, it's a schizophrenia type disorder, is what I call Christ psychosis. And in the city of nuts, Jerusalem, it is called the Jerusalem syndrome. We must realize that we are product of coitus. The only true creator is the penis Christ of our fathers that ejected a sperm DNA into our mother's cave. 9 months later, we emerge. Our brains that give us cognition emerged blank of information, subjected to the sensory gating, to the imprinting period, to all the information that is going to be given to us by the culture and also by our neural array. If the neural array is defective and can't fend off the psychosis, and we grow up 2, 3, 4 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old, and we cannot tell, we're waiting between fantasy and reality, and we cannot fend off the fantasies, and we get an education, and we're still believing in imaginary friends in hypophiba. In other words, we have hypophiba, imaginary friends of folk, irrational belief, acceptance, which is found in all neurological disorders, especially schizophrenia. If we have that hypophiba, despite the education, we have a problem with the brain. In other words, we are a religious psychotic. You believe in Christ, you're a Christ psychotic. You believe in Allah, all that is Islam psychosis. You believe in Hindu gods and this crap, you are a Hindu psychosis. You believe in conspiracy theory, ancient alien, you have a CTP, conspiracy theory psychosis. If you believe in all this Jewish nonsense, the gods and all that, Jehovah and all this crap, then you are Jewish psychotic. And there are many, many strains in each one of these psychoses, this religious psychosis, the Abrahamic psychosis, Christianity, so-called Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. But there are many sects. Islam, for instance, you have 73 strains of the psychosis. You have this problem in Iraq today. Thanks to piece of shit, Christ psychotic infected Bush. And this is a schizophrenic man, they believe in somebody that resurrected us with blood, invaded the wrong country and they made a mess out of Iraq. And then we have that today. In 2014, we have this mess in Iraq. We have Shia against Sunni, and I mean, it's a total mess. And it's a psychosis, because religion is a psychosis. People of 9/11, the Islam psychotics, they got into those planes into the buildings because of their psychosis. Because they believe in this eternal life. Christians do believe it too. Christ psychosis. The Crusades, they went on and killed the Christ killers to get a place in heaven. And they fought all these Jewish killers. Christian Hitler did the same thing. Killing the Jewish killers, because Christian Hitler formed Nazism, which is a blend, is a unification of Roman Germania, paganism, with Lutheran Christianity, Christ psychosis, and Catholic or universal psychosis. So therefore, you have Nazism. And I continue. This is 2014. Go back to 2009. a younger self.
You go to any sanatorium and you'll find the same type of people with the same identical reasoning.
It is nuts.
An emotional and spiritual experience is one thing.
And you can see, they do this diving, and they have two black cubes. Now the black cubes, geometrical, sacred geometry of Pythagoras. But in ancient Egypt and all time, the shapes were sacred. The triangle is the pudenda, which is the lady's cave of creation, the vagina. The two of them together, so it's like a pyramid, an inverted pyramid, and then you have the cube, which is the four elements of antiquity, like the square and the cube, the sacred shape. And the Romans adopted this as the sacred geometrical shape of kibele. Kibele means cube. So that's the reason you have the sacred cube on the forearm. It's called the tefillin on the Jews, and the same thing on the Kaaba. And the Kaaba, which means cube for the Muslims. But originated with the son of God, Octavius, Augustus, that created the big altar, the Arapakis Augustai, which is a cube, and you go inside. Very clever. Augustus created that. It's a cube representing peace, the Pax Romana, that lasted for about 200 years. So there you have it. That's what the whole thing. And the Jews, or the so-called Jews, were not traders and speculators. They were actually the sea people of 3,000 years ago. A combination of tribes that raided the coast of Egypt. That's what the so-called Jews come from. They don't have a civilization. They don't have anything. Zero. They adopted and they borrow and they stole the ideas and religions of all the other empires, especially Egypt. That's where it comes from. And then, of course, they adopted the Greek. After Alexander the Great, there was a Christus, there was a Moses. Moses means son of the sun god Ra. Ra Moses. It's a title, it's not a person. But they adopted Hellenism, thanks to the god Alexander the Great. And then, of course, you have the Septuagint, created by Ptolemy, Ramses, the ancestor of Cleopatra, that created the pharaohs of Alexandria and the library. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant men. They gave the so-called Jews the Septuagint, the 70 book of Moses, actually 72. But then you have the 72 virgins, which are nothing but vaginas, because grapes, because actually it's a metaphor. Because a vagina gives us pleasure, gives the men pleasure, and you don't know where it comes from. It's the cave of creation in heaven. Rays of the sun god, the penis god. So that's what you have, this tefillin, this cube shape. And when they nod means God, by the way. They all the symbol, they were no words. It's just the nodding, which is a sacred text, means God, 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 God. And they are banging their heads on a Roman temple to Jupiter. And Jupiter was a blend emerged with a Julius Caesar, the son of God, the Jesus Christ, the Christus. The sacrificed Christus was Caesar. His image was, his wax image was in a tropaeum, a symbol of the cross of the sun god, which is a symbol of victory. Cross was never an instrument of structure. There is no evidence. Zero. And then, of course, you have the Jews doing this, the so-called Jews. They were Roman citizens with the Roman temple, and they loved Julius Caesar the Christus. He had protected them. They were the first that went to his funeral, mourning his death for 3 consecutive nights. It is in the historical text of the time. Of the time. So that's the reason they do this. The so-called Jews are banging their heads on a Roman temple to Julius Caesar the Jesus Christ. Also that merged with Jupiter. No such a thing as Solomon. It did not exist. And Solomon could be a title. Be sure. It could be a title. Because a lot of these names are titles. It's like POTUS, President of the United States. It's a title. So there are many POTUSes, you know, Lincoln, Nixon, Kennedy, There you have it. That's what the Jews, so-called Jews, are doing. They're crazy. They're Jewish psychotic. Religious beliefs are a mental illness. It was okay to think like that in the 12th century and 4th century. Not today in the 21st. We create thinking with the brain malfunctions, we have religious psychosis everywhere.
This is a model of the temple of Jupiter at Baalbek, Lebanon, and the one in Moriah had the same thing. And look at this, look at the synagogue, a Roman temple, depicts a Roman temple in a synagogue, 4th century. These merchants are banging their head on a Roman temple. See, in about 120 CE, the Son of God, Emperor Hadrian, which was loved by a lot of people, was a great builder, he rebuilt the temple that had been destroyed in Jerusalem, in Mount Moriah. And that's the temple, the ruins of the temple we see today. Then, you know, after Christianity took over in the 4th century and all that, you know, then the Christians start, everything disintegrated and start building churches everywhere where the temples were. Then the Muslims came around and started conquering Jerusalem, you know, in the 7th century. And they took Jerusalem because they have the little fairy tales of the Jews and the Christians and everybody else. And they're building in the Quran. And they built a temple right at the Dome of the Rock that you see today. So we have 3 religions, 3 psychoses in that city. Look
at this. Look at this. Bound doing the nodding in the ruins of a Roman temple. And you know, the Romans are very faithful. They put wishes, they put prayers into the cracks of the temple. Jewish psychotics do it today. That's all a Roman tradition. As you can see, Jerusalem is the city of nuts. They have the Jerusalem syndrome, which in the United States is psychosis, spread by churches all over the United States. They make the people feel retarded, ignorant, and dumb. And sane, mentally healthy, in other words, atheists, intellectuals and scientists, they don't protest at churches. They don't realize that believe in God or believe Eiffel imaginary friend for irrational belief acceptance, is a psychosis, is a schizophrenia type disorder, and they don't protest at churches. But anyway, Mount Moriah, so-called Mount Moriah, you have the three the Abrahamic psychosis originated. You have Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Well, that temple of Julius Caesar, Optimus Maximus, the Jupiter Optimus Maximus, because Julius Caesar the Christus, the Jesus Christ, was also, when he was 18, he became a Flamen Dialis, the highest of the priesthoods, which is the priest of Jupiter. Keep that in mind. He would merge with Jupiter after he became a Christus, a divine entity with his comet that appeared. And then he becomes, along his mother Venus in the heavens, one of the gods, merging with Jupiter. So, but anyway, in Mount Moriah, in the city of nuts, Jesus Christ, the sacrifice, Christus, you know, he was killed and ascended to heaven near Mount Moriah, Golgotha. You know, that was Golgotha means the place of the skull, which is the same like in Rome. They call the Capitolium, that's what it means, place of the skull, because they found one of these skulls the Romans found an Etruscan king or something like that. Say that's the place of the skull, so they built the Caput Oleum. The guy's name was Oleum, so they call it Caput head, Caput Oleum, the head of Oleum. So that was the place, the Capitolium, that for the Romans, in the Roman Forum was sacred, and that's what they started building the most important buildings in the Forum, the Capitolium. That's what Caesar's body was cremated. The Capitolium. The skull of Oleum, the sacred place. Well, Jesus Christ was killed in Golgotha, and people don't understand what Golgotha is. You have to understand the names. And Golgotha is the place of the skull. It's a Capitolium. So anyway, from the Mount Moriah, you have some Jesus going to heaven. Then you have, that's the place where Abraham was ascended to heaven. The area there, he was going to sacrifice his son, Isaac, or Ishmael, because Angel Gabriel told him to stop from sacrificing his son, because God was going to test him. It was only test him. So he prevented from killing his own son, Abraham. Now, from the same spot was the place where Angel Gabriel took Muhammad in a flying horse and gave him a tour of heaven. So you had the three psychoses in the same temple. That's the reason all this mess in the world is because the lunatics killing each other for all this fairy tale crap. So now you have it. That is Mount Moriah for you. You have the three imbeciles, and they trying to. There's a Temple of Solomon, bullshit. It's a Roman temple to Jupiter over there. Keep digging, and you'll find nothing but Roman ruins and Roman coins and Roman everything. And the Muslim psychotics, the same shit. And then you have the Jewish psychotics, you know, and the other ones. I mean, is total psychosis. Jerusalem is the city of nuts. They have the Jerusalem syndrome, which is nothing but Christ psychosis, my postulated Christ psychosis in the United States.
Keep in mind, we are a product of coitus, and the brain is the creator of thought. When it malfunctions, it creates zombie gods. Bizarre metamagical beliefs, as in all religious psychosis and schizophrenias. There it is, psychosis.
Christ psychosis.
Psychiatrist for the Jerusalem district.
Poor guy.
Put those pieces together.
Keep in mind that people that go to church or synagogue or mosque, they believe exactly the same fairy tales, exactly, but they do not express them like the people suffering from Jerusalem syndrome or schizophrenics, that they hear voices and they are being abducted by aliens and things like that. They don't express it. Occasionally they do. And then they shoot people, or they think they are possessed, so they drown their children, bathtubs, so they go in a rampage because they suffer from full-blown Christ psychosis. And atheists, intellectuals, and scientists do not see it. Religious belief, some bigger belief, is a mental disease, like a schizophrenia.
והיא ללא ספק מציגה את אותה תמונה שאנחנו קראנו לה תסמונת ירושלים. תסמונת ירושלים, הדבר שמייחד אותה בעיניי, שאנשים...
A cute angel is stopping Abraham from killing Isaac. This fairy tale will create the Abrahamic psychopathy that's still with us today, killing everyone. And the deluded beliefs found in schizophrenics are no different to those bizarre metamagical beliefs found in all religions. So everything, all these lunatics, everything happened in Mount Moriah, in a Roman temple, the Holy of Holies of a Roman temple, rebuilt by Hadrian, with Jupiter, Optimus Max, with worship. And that's what, Isaac was almost being killed. That's what Muhammad ascended to heaven in the same dome, in the mosque, that area there. That's what Christ and the Virgin Mary ascended to heaven. And they're nuts. These people are nuts. They belong in mental institutions. That's the reason I call Jerusalem the city of nuts. The Vatican is another one. Religious beliefs are a mental illness. And the problem that is Christian, they are theotarded. In other words, they read only one book over and over and over, a 1,500-year-old text that they accept as reality today in the 21st century. So, out to the asylum with these nuts. They're screwing up the world.
That was Calpun Piso 2009 saying Pace Deorum, which means, it means in the peace of the gods, which is, in other words, bye, see ya, same thing. Well, this is Calpun Piso 2014. It is June 2014, and June is the month of the
wife, mother of
Zeus. or Atum, which is the god that performed out of fellatio and spit the whole world into existence. That's Atum, which is many, many names. So I would say also to you, friends, with my hand and the symbol of blessing, which is holding a penis, an imaginary penis Christ, the Lord of creation, which is the penis of our dads, and saying with it, Impacte Deorum, all the best.